Hi, hardworking fourth grade readers. Thank you for tuning in for another edition of our online read aloud of our amazing novel, The One and Only Ivan. A big thank you to HarperCollins Publishing for giving us permission to use this for an educational read aloud. Today we are going to read pages 108 to 120. If you do not have your novel with you, please pause this video, run and grab it, and find a comfy, cozy spot to read today. We begin on page 108, and our chapter is called Worry. Okay. When Julia arrives after the show, she brings 3 thick books, 1 pencil, and something she calls magic markers. Here, Ivan, she says, and she slides 2 magic markers and a piece of paper into my domain. Magic marker is just another name for a marker like you and I would use often when coloring. I like the sundown colors, red and purple, but I don't feel like coloring. I'm worried about Stella. All evening she's been quiet, and she hasn't eaten a bit of her dinner. Julia follows my gaze. Where is Stella anyway? She asks, and she goes to Stella's gate. Ruby extends her trunk and Julia pats it. Hi, baby, she says. Is Stella all right? Stella is lying in a pile of dirty hay. Her breath is ragged. What would that mean if your breath was ragged? What do you picture? If you look ragged, you look kind of tired, worn out. Okay, so if your breath is ragged, it's kind of like you're maybe struggling a little bit to breathe, sound pretty tired. Okay. Dad, Julia calls, could you come here a minute? George sets aside his mop. Do you think she's okay, Dad? Julia asked. Look at the way she's breathing. Can we call Mac? I think there's something really wrong. He must know about her. George rubs his chin. He always knows. But a vet costs money, Jules. Please. Julia's eyes are wet. Call him, Dad. George gazes at Stella. He puts his hands on his hips and he sighs. He calls Mac. I can't hear all of his words, but I can see George's lips tighten into a grim line. George Gorilla's expressions and human expressions are a lot alike. Max says the vet's coming in the morning if Stella's not any better, he tells Julia. He says he's not going to let her die on him, not after all the money he's put into her. George strokes Julia's hair. She'll be all right. She's a tough old girl. Julia sits by Stella's domain until it's time to go home. She doesn't do her homework. She doesn't even draw. Probably not doing those things, right? Because she's very focused on Stella and is worried about her. The Promise, page 111. My domain gleams with moonlight while I awake to the sound of Stella's calls. Ivan, Stella says in a whisper. Ivan. I'm here, Stella. I sit up abruptly, and Bob topples off my stomach. I run to a window. I can see Ruby next to Stella sleeping soundly. Ivan, I want you to promise me something, Stella says. Anything, I say. I never asked for a promise before, because promises are forever, and forever is an unusually long time, especially when you're in a cage. Domain, I correct. Remember, he doesn't like to say he lives in a cage. Domain, she agrees. I straighten to my full height. I promise, Stella, I say in a voice like my father's. But you haven't even heard what I'm asking yet, she says, and she closes her eyes for a moment. Her great chest shudders. I promise anyway. Stella doesn't say anything for a long time. Never mind, she finally says. I don't know what I was thinking. The pain is making me addled. Ruby stirs. Her trunk moves, as if she's reaching for something that isn't there. When I say the words, they surprise me. You want me to take care of Ruby. Stella nods, a small gesture that makes her wince. If she could have a life that's different from mine. She needs a safe place, Ivan. Not here, I say. It would be easier to promise to stop eating, to stop breathing, to stop being a gorilla. I promise, Stella, I say. I promise it on my word as a silverback. Okay, remember he said he always kind of keeps promises. That's something that a silverback always does. But this is not a promise he wants to make because, of course, if she's asking him to take care of Ruby, what is she afraid is maybe going to happen because she won't be there maybe to take care of Ruby, right? Page 114, chapter is called Knowing. Before Mac, before Bob, even before Ruby, I know that Stella is gone. I know it the way you know that summer is over and winter is on its way. I just know. Stella once teased me that elephants are superior because they feel more joy and more grief than apes. Your gorilla hearts are made of ice, Ivan, she said, her eyes glittering. Ours are made of fire. Right now, I would give all the yogurt raisins in all the world for a heart made of ice. Pause for a moment. There were a lot of important things in that tiny little one-page chapter. Okay. If you didn't make the inference, Stella is gone, right? He's saying she passed away, which is very, very sad. Probably had an infection, right? And sometimes if you don't treat an infection, it can spread throughout your body. It says that Stella said at one point, gorilla hearts were made of ice. If you haven't heard that expression, they're saying that you are cold-hearted, which means you are not kind, not thoughtful. And she's saying that's true of gorilla hearts. She was giving him a hard time. Okay, and this was before she passed away when they were talking about other things. And it says her heart is made of fire, meaning like she's compassionate and warm-hearted, or fire-hearted, okay? Lots of passion, lots of love for others, lots of kindness. And he's saying right now he wishes so bad he had a heart of ice, probably because he's in pain, right? From losing a good friend. He wishes that his heart wasn't breaking and that he didn't care, okay? And he wasn't missing her. Page 115, the chapter is called 5 Men. Bob heard from a rat, a reliable sort, that they tossed Stella's body into a garbage truck. It took 5 men and a forklift. That is disgusting. I can't even hardly talk to you all about it because it's terrible treatment of animals. It makes me sad. That won't surprise any of you that I've got teary-eyed. Page 116. Got sadder about that, right? And I did about her passing. But we know that's a good book if it triggers some emotions from us, right? Page 116. Another short chapter. It is called Comfort. All day I tried to comfort Ruby, but what can I say? That Stella had a good and happy life, that she lived as she was meant to live, that she died with those who loved her most nearby. Well, at least the last is true. Okay, so he knows she died with him nearby and Bob and even Ruby, who is new to their domain, but still someone who quickly fell in love with Stella. He's not so sure about those other questions. Was it a good, happy life? Did she live the life she was meant to live? Those are all good questions. Page 117, our chapter is Crying. Julia cries all evening while her father sweeps and mops and dusts and cleans the toilets. When George sees Mac, he runs to him. I can only hear a few of the words. Vet, should have, wrong. Mac shrugs. His shoulders droop. He leaves without a word. When George wipes the fingerprints off my glass, his cheeks are wet. He doesn't meet my eyes. That means he does not look Ivan in the eyes. He's upset, he's sad. He probably feels remorseful, meaning he probably really wishes he had called a vet himself or somehow went around Mac to get Stella help, because she might have still been alive if he had done that. But he listened to Mac and he trusted him that he was going to get a vet. Page 118. This chapter is called, the name of our book, The One and Only Ivan. When all the humans have left, I send Bob to check on Ruby. How is she? I ask when he returns. She was shivering, Bob says. I tried to cover her with hay. I told her not to worry because you were going to save her. I glare at him. You told her that? You promised Stella. Bob lowers his head. I wanted to make the kid feel better. I shouldn't have made that promise, Bob. I point to Stella's domain, and for a moment, it seems like I've forgotten how to breathe. I want to make Stella happy, I guess. But I can't save Ruby. I can't even save myself. I flop onto my back. The cement is always cold, but tonight it hurts. Bob leaps onto my belly. You are the one and only Ivan, he says. Mighty Silverback. He licks my chin, and he's not even checking for leftovers. Say it, Bob commands. I look away. Say it, Ivan. I don't answer, so Bob licks my nose until I can't stand it any longer. I am the one and only Ivan, I mutter. And don't you ever forget it, he says. When I gaze at the food court skylight, the moon Stella loved is shrouded in clouds. Okay, that would pretty much mean like there's an overlay of clouds. It's surrounding it. It feels like those clouds are blocking out that beautiful view of the moon. Take some time, please, to think about why is it that Bob is pretty forcefully saying and making Ivan say the words out loud, I am the one and only Ivan. What is it that he's trying to do there? Okay. By having someone repeat how great they are or why they are important, what would he maybe be trying to do for Ivan? We will talk more about that when we begin our next read aloud. Okay. Thank you for being great listeners and hard workers. I miss you all. Send love and hugs. See you soon.